Hi, welcome to Pathways of Hope. Let me read the lengthy passage for today that is about the story of Lazarus, uh, the poor man who found himself in the bosom of Abraham. Let's read from the Gospel of Luke, chapter 16, 19, and following. There was a rich man who was clothed in purple and fine linen, and who feasted sumptuously every day. And at his gate lay a poor man named Lazarus, full of sores, who desired to be fed with what fell from the rich man's table. And moreover, the dogs came and licked his sores. The poor man died and was carried by the angels to Abraham's bosom. The rich man also died and was buried, and in Hades, being in torment, he lifted up his eyes and saw Abraham far off and Lazarus in his bosom. And he called out, Father Abraham, have mercy upon me, and send Lazarus to dip the end of his finger in water and cool my tongue, for I am in anguish and in this flame. But Abraham said, Son, remember that in your lifetime you receive your good things, and Lazarus in like manner evil things. But now he is comforted here, and you are in anguish. And besides all this, between us and you a great chasm has been fixed, in order that those who would pass from here to you may not be able, and none may cross from there to us. And he said, Then I beg you, Father, to send him to my father's house, for I have 5 brothers, so that he may warn them, lest they also come into this place of torment. But Abraham said, No, they have Moses and the prophets. Let them hear them. And he said, No, Father Abraham, but if someone goes to them from the dead, they will repent. He said to him, If they do not hear Moses and the prophets, neither will they be convinced if someone should rise from the dead. End of reading. This is a difficult passage sometimes to understand, and maybe the simple thing that you probably would think of is, okay, the rich will go to hell and the poor will go to heaven. As simple as that. But I think there is more to it than that. In the time of Jesus, people made the mistake of thinking that if you're blessed materially, it means that you are close to God and God is blessing you with good things. And if you're poor, maybe you're a sinner and that you are someone who was being very far from God. But you would understand this passage if you look at the verses before it, wherein Jesus was condemning the Pharisees for being lovers of money, but their hearts were far from God. In verse 14 of the Gospel of Luke, it says, The Pharisees, who were lovers of money, heard all this, and they scoffed at him. But he said to them, You are those who justify yourself before men, but knows your hearts. But God knows your hearts. For what is exalted among men is an abomination in the sight of God. You are those who justify yourselves before men, but God knows your hearts. For what is exalted among men is abomination in the sight of God. God knows our hearts. And in the story of Lazarus, clearly God knew the heart of Lazarus. He suffered so much here in this world in poverty, and yet his heart was always moving towards God. And that's why he enjoyed the presence of God. Abraham, the father of faith, is the one who symbolizes for the Jewish people nearness to God. And clearly, this rich man found himself seeing Lazarus close to God, and he suffering in Hades. And then the suggestion of the rich man was, Father Abraham, go to my brothers and tell them, speak to them about turning to God. And of course, Abraham said, no, if they have Moses and the prophets, they will listen to them. But the rich man said, no, no, no. Send somebody down there. Go and tell them. But then in the story, Jesus gives this very striking line. If they do not hear Moses and the prophets, neither will they be convinced if someone should rise from the dead. Referring to himself, the future wherein he will rise from the dead and proclaim the good news. And yet many will still not accept the good news. The story is for us. The story is for all of us who are listening to this gospel. And we are being asked by God to look at our lives. We might be in a challenging situation financially, or we might be struggling in this world. But the more important thing is, where is your heart? Is your heart moving towards God? And if it is moving towards God, then in the end, our reward might be experienced here in this world. But definitely, if we remain faithful, our reward will be to be with God. God bless us, and may we open our hearts to accepting the good news and not imitate the rich man in rejecting the message of God. God bless us.